Wrong video. These foam disc launchers are an awesome toy if you're a fan of things that don't work properly. And if you are a fan of that, well, you're in the right place. But these were basically a waste of an 1/18 of a Benji, even though they did come with these delicious little morsels. And I couldn't physically bring myself to just throw them away. So I was stuck wondering how to improve these pieces of garbage when an idea came across my desk. Okay, the first thing I'll need to find is a saw blade. And the second thing I'll need is $1 million. Now, I can't just make this kid's toy launch a circular saw blade. It doesn't fit all the way. But after a little persuasion with the blade's brother from another mother, I realized I was going to need a lot more power. This toy uses springs of some sort to propel the foam disc, and much like all of us, spontaneously explodes if touched at the right spot. But springs didn't seem to be much of a motivator for the saw blade unless it was an organized hit. So I decided I was going to use something a little more exotic to propel the blade, like this shoe that I completely forgot to catch, and now it looks like my shoe lost a 1v1 in a drive-by shooting. Anyway, the wheel on the end of the shoe is really what I'm after because of its blade launching potential. At this point, I should probably explain what my goals are for this project. I want it to be handheld with hand warmers and launch 3 saw blades at a time that break the speed of sound and can also cause the annihilation of Alderaan. And now that we've gotten the scope creep out of the way, I really just want it to be handheld, launch a saw blade at a reasonably fast speed, and have an auto-feeding magazine. But what is considered a reasonably fast speed? In the words of the late, great Mr. McQueen, I am speed, and after partaking in a little bit of math, I found I could throw the blade between 35 and 50 miles per hour, so that's what I'll be going for. Now, to achieve those speeds, I'll need some wheels. And in order to turn those wheels, I'll need a motor. And in order to turn the motor, I'll need a microcontroller. For the MC, hold the hammer, I decided to use the 32nd variant of ESP, but unfortunately for me, these boards were designed in ancient Roman times when they still used this micro USB connector. So I had to dig through my dusty cable box and found this cable that was clearly suffering from localized alopecia. It surprisingly still worked though, and after talking dirty to the ESP and hooking up the ESC, I was about to ESC if this whole setup would even work.
That's beeping.
Whoa! Whoa! This looked pretty promising, and my next step was to install a wheel on the motor, but these wheelchair wheels don't grip the blade very well, so I printed this grippy wheel out of a material called Teepoo, which is like PLA if it had a little too much to drink that night. This squishier wheel should be able to suck the blade in and spit it out, but there was really only one way to know for sure. Similar to myself, the blade consistently hung to the right, so I installed a little border that shared the same goal as electroshock therapy, forced them to come out straight. And that actually seemed to work, the border one anyway, but the discs weren't coming out very fast, so I increased friction by lowering the motor, but it was clearly too much friction for both the motor and universe to handle.
What the freak?
The test fixture was getting kinda beat up at this point, and to be honest, there's no way this setup would get the disc up to the 50 miles per hour that I want, even if I did add these extra motors. So I'm gonna need to pour a lot more energy into the saw blades for this to work, and thankfully the physics gods have gifted me the invention of the flywheel, which is a heavy wheel that contains massive amounts of energy while spinning, and if it's good enough to power a steam engine or this Goober's Potter's wheel, it'll probably be enough for these. However, unthankfully, the fizzy gods have also invented the gyroscopic effect, which means if I want these spiky wheels to fly, I need to figure out how to make them spin, which technically also makes the saw blades themselves flywheels. I've been learning all of this useful information from The Book by Hungry Minds, which is the ultimate guide to rebuilding civilization because it says so right there. It's also today's sponsor because it says so right there. This book is massive, beautifully illustrated, and really cool, just like me for real. And I've been learning about a wide range of topics like jet streams, or this relaxing board game called chess that looks pretty fun and really easy to master. This book has got everything. Do you like to get naughty? Boom. You like jazz? Boom. Reinforced concrete? Yeah, that actually isn't here. But my favorite part of the book is that it isn't a book. It's a giant quest filled with incredibly complex puzzles, and only 7 people on planet Earth have ever solved the entire quest. You could be number 8, but I doubt it. And in order to embark on this mighty quest, my brave knight, you must follow two things. Firstly, the butterflies that are hidden on certain pages that will lead you to the puzzles. And secondly, the link in the description below or this QR code to purchase the book and start hunting butterflies. Use my code CONCEPT10 to get 10% off of the book. Thanks again to Hungry Minds for sponsoring this video. Now back to hitting 30 reps of Jawzrsize so I can mew on my haters. This exercise equipment can also work as a tire, and after combining it with this 100% infill wheel, I built a much larger and more serious test setup that should violently expectorate the blade. And it's at this point that I wondered if feeding a saw blade into this was a good idea. I decided that it was. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Well, the saw blade is anyway. And after a couple more tests, I thought I should probably plug in the second motor. You main monitor watchers probably noticed that both wheels have been spinning, and when they're stopped, they don't touch each other. So how is this wheel turning? Well, remember those imaginary numbers they tried to peddle to us in high school? They don't have anything to do with this. I just wanted you to remember that they exist. Or do they? No, we only deal in imaginary forces here on this channel, like this centrifugal force that's been caught in 4K, expanding the top outer wheel, which in turn drives the lower. Anyway, after connecting the second motor by shorting a cable with an alligator clip, I expected two motors to launch the blade twice as fast. But after some science, it was clear the blade wasn't really going any faster. And this actually makes sense, because most of the power is in the flywheels, not the motors, and my main man centrifugal had already been giving me a 2-for-1 special in the power department.
No, I just hit my laptop with that.
After throwing some random stuff in the wheels for curiosity's sake, and exacting my revenge on the B word, I started to upgrade my test setup by doubling the tabs on the wheel, and then got a little carried away. One intense session of screwing, grinding, drilling, and banging later, I realized my muse was the evil woman from Robots, which I would enthusiastically do all the aforementioned actions to, robotically speaking. Moving on, I made this box thing that now has a second flywheel stage to hopefully put some extra poop behind launching the blades, and luckily for me, delivering poop is in the very nature of the flywheel. The saw blade was definitely schmoving now, and the force that it was hitting the backstop with was almost impressive.
Holy, that's kind of spooky.
But now I had two problems. The teeth on the blade were eating my wheels, and the blade was really good at not sticking into the wood. So I got out my dentistry tools, removed the pearly silvers, and fashioned some custom dentures that seemed to work quite well.
That is terrifying.
Unfortunately though, the dual flywheels didn't have enough power to stick the landing, even after I tried to cheat with cardboard, and that was pretty disappointing. But if Schoolhouse Rock has taught me anything, it's that 3 is the magic number. Abracadabra, I now had 3 stages of flywheels, and with the amount of solder I just inhaled, my lungs also have 3 stages. This time I went for a longer shot, and even though it didn't stick, I found that the blades were traveling at 30 miles per hour, and were indeed spinning, with the spinach being due to this offset flywheel at the end, which pirouettes the disc as it comes out. You may be thinking that was a pretty smart thing to do, and I did too when I decided to steal it from YouTube's resident make disc spin fast expert. At this point, I was pretty tired of seeing the blade bounce off it crazy style, so I figured if it couldn't even get through this cardboard box, this project was kind of worthless.
Holy smokes, it started coming through the back too. No! It smells like acetone! It punctured my acetone! Oh, that was stupid of me.
Okay, that was pretty terrifying, and a wise man would probably keep it on the table and abandon the idea of it being handheld. Good thing for you, I happen to be fresh out of gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Oh yeah.
This bad boy's got 3 stages of flywheels, it's got accent colors, it's got homemade bomb-esque wiring, it is indeed a bad boy, it's got semi-automatic manual loading, and finally the flywheels are exposed, so hopefully the foregrip doesn't come off. And there was really nothing left to do, except to see if it even worked.
So it bounces back, I can catch it with this hand. Alright, here we go.
And work it did. That is, until the foregrip decided to take the day off.
Can you see that? That's probably why you don't have exposed flywheels.
After denying the foregrip any more vacation time for the year, I soon realized that aiming is more of a suggestion with this thing, so to fix that, I figured I'd just add more ammunition. That was easier said than done though, and while attempting to launch 2 discs in a row, my camera got so disgusted with the performance it tried its best to blur it out. I don't blame it though, because the launcher kept jamming even after I let it pick out its favorite saw blade holder, and the only way I could launch multiple saws was to accidentally get a double shot or load them one at a time, and everyone knows only losers load their saw blade disc launchers like that. So I gave up and started playing with this top that I found, and the top wasn't very good at topping, but it was pretty good at keeping the reserve discs in place, and if this didn't work, consider the towel thrown.
If ever there were a time for you to work, it would be right now. Yeah. Oh, that's so freaking cool.
Even though only 2 saw blades actually stuck, I didn't care. I have a semi-automatic saw blade disc launcher, baby, and it's only downhill from here.
That is, without a doubt, the coolest thing I've made in my life.
I then headed out back to do some more testing, and the first thing to test against was a week's worth of hard work. The P-Jar was a formidable opponent, and even this cola bottle tried some evasive maneuvers, but I was able to snipe it before it reached safety. I then tried some long-range shots, but flywheels are prudes and don't like it wet and dirty, so out of principle they mostly refuse to spin the discs, but miraculously I did get one to stick. And what kind of host would I be if I didn't let you participate in the fun? But before I let you take a turn, if you're interested in a full breakdown of this build, I'll be doing one soon over on my Patreon, where I post twice weekly content and do a wide variety of fun stuff, so if that's up your alley, please check it out. Okay, go for it, big dog. That ricochet made me start thinking that maybe I should stop while I'm ahead, but I've got to know just how fast I can crank it in the garage, and I've got the perfect target to unleash the crankening on. Yeah, I should have stopped while I was ahead.